Welcome back to Nasrec, where we continue our discussions and our broadcast of the ANC Policy Conference here in Johannesburg at the Expo Center. I am now joined by Baleka Mbete, who seems to be getting a new cap every day. Unfortunately, or at least fortunately for me this morning, she's talking about a subject that's very close to my heart. She is, of course, the head of the Archive Committee of the ANC. Ma'am, firstly, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Ma'am, let's talk a little bit about the Archive Committee. Why was it established?
This committee, the particular one I'm chairing, was formed after the 2012 centenary conference of the ANC, when the new National Executive Committee had been elected and come into office. So January 2013, the Archive Subcommittee of the National Executive Committee was formed. But of course, I must hasten to say that Frini Jinwala had headed the Archives Committee in earlier years after we came back from exile. Now, we've been existing to continue with some of the work we had started during the preparations for the centenary program, because I chaired the committee that dealt and spearheaded with the centenary program. So we've been working, and we are going to be reporting to conference.
What's the purpose of this committee, ma'am? What does it do?
Sure, it has so much work because, you know, the archives of the ANC, as you would imagine, are all over the world. Remember, we were, for almost 30 years, existing mainly in the external mission, which the ANC had sent O.R. Tambo to go and establish outside South Africa, to make sure that the struggle of the people back in South Africa has the necessary support, has the understanding from throughout the world, and hence the formation of the anti-apartheid movement that, in fact, made sure that the people of South Africa had the support from Europe, from Asia, from the Soviet Union, from the Americas, everywhere, and in particular in Africa. So we waged a struggle that was supported by the people of the world, and therefore, in fact, our archives, the memories, the photographs, the books, the stories remain in those parts of the world, and some of which we have visited, but others, of course, will never be able to visit. Like last year, I was in Italy, where we, in fact, visited a place in Reggio Emilia, where O.R. Tambo had gone and, in fact, started an anti-apartheid circle of people who still exist to this day. And they are keeping our archives, and they are, in fact, planning to build a monument to O.R. Tambo.
Right. Ma'am, how significant do you think are those archives, and at least the role that they could play in trying to unify the movement as it stands today? You were talking a little bit about the stories. Don't you think that we should maybe return those so that members of the ANC can look at those, read the stories, and maybe have a sense of reinvigoration about the movement?
You know, members of the ANC are always reading about past leaders. They are always reading the stories and, in fact, the material that was written by our leaders, like Oliver Tambo. But the question of the archives themselves and making sure that there is a heritage site is something that was decided already by the 53rd conference, as had been proposed by the NGC of 2005. So as we stand, we are still working on ensuring that finally there is an envisaged heritage, national heritage site, or in fact not site. It's much more than that. It's a heritage place where we will keep everything. But so far, right now, Fort Hare is keeping a lot of our archives, and in fact, as I say, they are all over the place.
Is there, ma'am, this site where this heritage will be then kind of collated, when can we expect it to be to be up and running? Because obviously it is very important history that must be showcased to ordinary South Africans.
You know, this history is so important that I sometimes worry that people get disturbed and they get, their minds are interfered with by politics.
All right. Ma'am, sorry, I would love to continue this conversation, but my director shouting in my ear that we need to wrap, unfortunately.
Okay.
That's all the time we have for this briefing. That was Baleka Mbete, who is also the chair of the ANC's Archive Committee. For the time being, let's cross you back to studio with Leanne and Palisa.